All right, let's get to work on the notes for 2B. This one deals with area and circumference of a circle. So I've got the two formulas written up there, actually three formulas. For area, the formula is pi r squared. Okay, so if you remember, area is how much space is covered up. Okay, so it'd be the area of the whole thing. So in this case, we need r, which is the radius. The exponent 2 is only on the radius. Okay, so that's the only thing. Remember, this means radius times pi. Circumference is the distance around a circle. Okay, it goes around the circle. It's kind of like perimeter, but it's not, so it's called circumference. So there's two formulas depending on which piece of the circle you have or like to work with. So circumference is the formula 2 pi r. 2 times pi times the radius. Now, we know that a radius times 2, if I have 2 radii, that equals the diameter. So another formula that we can use for circumference is pi times diameter. They can be, either one can be used, both will give you the same thing. You just have to be very careful on what do I have, a radius or a diameter. So let's take a look at the first couple here. We've got just using those formulas. So these two, we want to find the area of the circle. So I've got the formulas already filled out. So the area is pi r squared. This is r, so 12 squared. So I'm actually going to do that first. So 12 times 12 is 144 times pi. Now if I wanted exact answer, I would leave it just like that and I'd be done. Okay, if I wanted a rounded off answer, I have to take 144 times pi. And when I do so, I get about 452.39. Okay, and since this is area and these are meters, that would be meters squared. The second one, I'm given the diameter. Okay, but I know the area formula is pi r squared. So if the diameter is 18, I know the radius is 9. And that's what I need for the formula for area. So I'm going to square that. 9 times 9 gives me 81 times pi. When I multiply those two out, I get 254.47. This was in inches. It is area, so square inches or inches squared would be the label. The next two deal with circumference. Again, depending on which part we have on the picture will help us determine which formula we want to use. So in this case, I'm given the radius is 2.8. So when I take the formula 2 times pi times r, I'm going to get 2 times pi times 2.8. When I multiply those together, I'm going to get 17.59. This is circumference, which is just walking around the circle. So that's going to be just a linear feet. Now when I'm multiplying these together, it's commutative, so which means it doesn't matter what order you multiply them. Some people like to do the numbers first, so 2 times 2.8 times pi, or you can go right along in order. 2 times pi times 2.8, you'll get the same answer. In this problem, I'm given the diameter is 35, so I'm going to use the other circumference formula, pi d. So I need basically 35 times pi. Now, if I wanted it exact, I would just write it 35 pi and I'd be done. If I want an approximation or I want to multiply it out, I got to go 35 times pi and I get 109.96. This is walking around the circle, so that's kilometers. Okay, so now we're going to stretch it just a little bit. We're going to use our formulas or those answers to circumference and area and help us find either a radius or diameter. So we're going to use the same formulas. We're just going to manipulate them around a little bit. So in this first one, we want to find the diameter of a circle with a circumference of 65.97. So circumference, we have two choices for circumference. Since they want me to find the diameter, I'm going to use pi d. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in what I know. I know circumference is 65.97 equals pi d. D is what I want, so I'm going to divide by pi. Just like solving equations, I can cancel out the pi's. And that means D is going to equal. Now, when you divide this out, you'll get a big long decimal. You just want to round it to the nearest whole number usually. Okay, so this one I think comes out to be 20.99 or something like that. So we're going to take that and make it 21. And diameter would be straight across, so 21 meters. So we took the formula, filled in what we knew, divided to get the unknown. Find the radius of a circle with circumference of 21.99. So I'm going to use the other circumference formula. I'm going to fill in for C is 21.99. Now if you look here, the only unknown, the only variable is R. So I can divide by 2 pi, and both of those will cancel out. So then R remains, and all I have to do on my calculator is 21.99 divided by 2 divided by pi. Or you can multiply this out and then divide by that whole thing. When you do so, you get 3.5, and that would be feet because our measurement was in feet. Find the radius of a circle with circumference. Okay, so we know the circumference is 35 pi. So we're trying to find the radius, so we'll leave it like that. There's the formula I'm going to use. In place of C, the circumference is 35 pi. I'll just fill in the rest. This is the unknown, that's the one I'm trying to find, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2 pi, and when I do that, now I have R by itself. And same thing with the equations. What I do to this side, I have to do to this side. Now, kind of the cool thing is, pi over pi cancels out. Okay? So all I basically have to do on my calculator, or in my head, 35 divided by 2 is 17.5. That's what they were asking me for. What is the radius? And a radius is always going to be a linear measurement. The last one says find the diameter with an area of 90.25. Okay, so area equals pi r squared. Now that's the only one we have for area, so we're going to have to find r and then double it to get the diameter. So I'm going to plug in A is 90.25 pi equals pi r squared. See, I'm just filling that in there. So I want r by itself, so I'm going to divide by pi. All right, so those gone, these pi's are gone. So what that leaves me is r squared equals 90.25. Okay, do you remember how we go from r squared to r? We square root both sides. The square root of r squared is r. The square root of 90.25 is 9.5. Now they asked me for diameter. So if the radius is 9.5, the diameter is 9.5 times 2, which gives me 19. This was in meters. Okay, so we'll come back for part 2.